Hey guys, tonight we're heading deep into the mountain-shadowed villages of ancient Korea, back to a time when scent didn't come in a glass bottle with a celebrity's name on it, but from ashes, fire, and bamboo. Imagine waking up to mist curling around thatched rooftops, wood smoke on the breeze, and a faint aroma of something earthy, something strange, something made from yesterday's fire. You stretch and yawn on a rice-stuffed sleeping mat, its edge still warm from your grandmother's body heat. Outside, the air bites just enough to make you grateful for the padded hanbok robe waiting by the door. You step into the morning and instantly smell it, the smoky perfume drifting from the central hearth. It's not floral, it's not spicy, it's quiet. A whisper of bamboo burnt down to nothing and yet somehow still alive. You probably wouldn't last long here, by the way. Between the open fire pits, the raw garlic breakfasts, and the no-privacy bathing customs, modern spa day, you would crumble by noon. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'd love to know who's drifting off with us tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shuffle out into the courtyard bare feet on packed earth. A thin line of smoke threads out from the old kiln winding around the clay pots and out toward the bamboo grove. That's where it begins. Not in a garden of blossoms, not in a spice market, but in a simple pit where people have been burning things on purpose for hundreds of years. In this Silla-era village, sometime around the 6th century, you are a novice in the household of a minor herbalist, meaning your mornings begin with stoking fires, emptying ashes, and very occasionally helping prepare the household's personal perfume. Bamboo ash, when treated correctly, doesn't smell like a campfire. It smells soft, powdery, a little like roasted rice, a little like incense, and a little like nothing you can quite place. The fire today is small but deliberate. Not a raging blaze, not a cooking flame, just a steady smolder fed by dry bamboo culms that crack softly as they collapse into powder. You squat next to it, poking gently with a bronze prod. You're not burning the bamboo to cook it. You're slow burning it, watching the smoke curl, guiding it just so. The goal is a fine, pale ash, not blackened charcoal, not greasy soot. Historians still argue whether these perfuming ashes were originally discovered by accident. Maybe someone left bamboo near the coals too long. Maybe some ash got sprinkled into oil and someone went, "Wait, what's that smell?" Or maybe, as some fringe theorists like to claim, the practice came from much farther east, imported from ancient Chinese Taoist fumigation rites and reinterpreted through a Korean lens. Either way, by your time it's become its own thing. Quiet, subtle, strangely elegant. As you stir the bamboo, your hands grow warm. Smoke clings to your sleeves. Not acrid, not unpleasant. There's a ghost of sweetness in it. The kind of smell you might associate with late summer evenings, or temples, or the pages of an old book left near incense. If you concentrate hard enough, you can almost taste it. But this scent isn't meant for you. Not really. The herbalist's household makes perfume for wealthier families, noble clients, minor royals, sometimes monks of high standing. Scent in your time is a sign of both hygiene and holiness, and neither comes cheap. You rise slowly, knees stiff from crouching, and carry a tray of fresh ash into the storeroom. There, in tightly sealed jars lined with paper and resin, rests the next stage of your work. The ash will rest overnight, cool and settle. Tomorrow it will be sifted, crushed, blended either with oils, animal fats, or herbal infusions depending on the recipe. It's strange to think about, isn't it? In your world, scent is almost always liquid, spritzed from a nozzle or dabbed behind the ears. Here it's dry, dusty, often applied like makeup with a brush or a cloth. You can even soak your underrobe in it if you're feeling fancy or desperate. And here's a quirky little tidbit. Some people say bamboo ash mixed with sesame oil repels mosquitoes and bad dreams. No hard evidence, of course, but when you're living in a place where tigers still prowl the outer forests and your house walls are made of mud and straw, well, you take your blessings where you can get them. Outside, a neighbor passes by. She sniffs the air and nods in approval. "That's good fire," she says. "Not too fast. You're learning." You smile sheepishly, brushing soot from your cheeks, suddenly aware that your whole body smells like a pleasant bonfire. Not exactly Chanel, but it'll do. You glance back at the dying embers. The smoke's grown thinner, more transparent. Just a breath of it now rising into the blue. You sit on a low stool, letting the warmth seep into your back, wondering what tomorrow's perfume will be. Will you blend it with dried chrysanthemum patchouli root? Maybe even that rare clump of deer musk the herbalist keeps wrapped in silk, only for the most esteemed visitors. But for now, you just breathe. The sun has crept a little higher now, casting long golden fingers through the lattice window of your sleeping quarters. Breakfast millet porridge with pickled radish is over, and your daily chores beckon. Today, the herbalist sends you to the edge of the village to gather fresh bamboo. Not the thick, ancient stalks used for construction or tools. Know what you're looking for are the young, straight culms, green and full of promise. The kind that burn clean and leave behind that precious ash. The bamboo grove isn't far, just a 10-minute walk past the irrigation channels and a cluster of wattle and daub homes. You take the winding path behind the communal well shoes, crunching on frost-touched dirt. Around you, the world is damp and quiet, except for the occasional bark of a village dog or the distant drumming of a woodpecker looking for breakfast. You brush your fingers along a wall of drying herbs as you pass wormwood, angelica red ginseng all sharp and earthy in the cool air. When you reach the grove, it greets you with its signature hush. Bamboo, as it turns out, has a sound, a subtle one. When the wind moves through it, the stalks knock gently against one another, whispering secrets in a language too old for words. You stand still for a moment, just listening. Even now, centuries later, Koreans associate bamboo with resilience and humility. It bends, but doesn't break. It grows in silence. And as you now know, it makes a surprisingly luxurious base for ancient perfume. You find the patch your teacher described young, bamboo slender and green. With a small iron sickle, you cut clean at the base, feeling the vibrations run up your arm with each slice. The stalks are light, almost hollow, but inside they carry traces of their future nodes of fiber, tiny chambers of scent-holding memory. Historians still debate why bamboo became the preferred fuel for perfumed ash in ancient Korea. Some argue it was practical, plentiful, fast-growing, and easy to cut. Others believe it was symbolic, chosen for its ties to purity and discipline. A few fringe academics even suggest bamboo's spiritual significance in early shamanistic practices gave it a role beyond the physical. Whatever the origin, you know, one thing for sure, not just any wood would do. You load the cut bamboo onto a woven shoulder frame and begin the walk back. The path winds through narrow rice paddies now glinting under the sun. An elderly man, you recognize someone's uncle, always carrying dried squid waves as you pass. The village is waking up. Smoke curls from chimneys. A child chases chickens near a shed. Two women argue softly over the price of fermented soybean bricks. You pause under the eaves of the village shrine to catch your breath. It's not a grand temple, just a small wooden structure tucked into a clearing, housing a few ancestral tablets and a faint smell of burnt offerings. Interestingly, the ashes here smell different from yours. There's a bitterness to them, pine and straw maybe. You wonder if they ever add perfume to their rituals. The boundary between scent for the living and scent for the spirits is thin here, sometimes dangerously thin. When you return, the herbalist inspects the bamboo, nods approvingly, and sets it aside to dry. It will take a few days before it's ready for the fire pit. In the meantime, your job is to strip yesterday's batch into finer shavings, the kind used for short bursts of scent rather than long smolders. Some will be ground into powder, some will be steeped in water and strained. Yes, ash water was a thing. It filtered impurities and sometimes even played a role in rudimentary skin treatments. Here's a funny little nugget. Rumor has it that one royal concubine swore by bamboo ash mixed with egg yolk for her glowing complexion. Historians tend to raise an eyebrow at that one, but hey, your skin does feel oddly soft after working with the stuff all day. You carry a few dry stalks inside and begin shaving them down, enjoying the quiet hiss of the blade against the smooth surface. The herbalist hums somewhere nearby, preparing a bundle of herbs to dry over the hearth. A cat who's decided you're tolerable curls up near your work mat, tail twitching softly. From time to time, you glance out the door at the remaining bamboo stalks drying in the sun. Each one is a future scent, a memory in waiting. You wonder who will wear it: some noblewoman at a spring festival, a monk preparing for meditation, maybe even someone mourning a loved one wearing the scent to feel closer to memory than to reality. In a way, the bamboo is telling you a story about patience, about heat and transformation, about how something plain and humble, green grass with ambition, can be burned down to ash and then made sacred. And you, little apprentice, are part of that story now. By now, your hands have the scent of bamboo baked right into the skin. No amount of rinsing in the creek or scrubbing with rice husk soap can quite erase it. Not that you mind. The smell is oddly comforting, warm, woody, faintly sweet, like the memory of fire without the smoke in your eyes. Today's task isn't about harvesting or burning, it's about blending. You sit cross-legged in the herbalist's shadowy workshop, a space packed with cabinets full of strange ingredients, dried herbs wrapped in silk paper, waxy chunks of tree resin, and tiny cloth sachets labeled in flowing brushstroke characters. Your teacher gestures toward the corner shelf where a small jar of bamboo ash rests beside a vial of sesame oil and a wrapped bundle of dried persimmon peels. We're making a house scent, she says, which is her way of saying a signature blend. Not for clients, not for sale, just for the household. It's the smell that clings to your bedding, your outer robe, your tools, a scent that makes the room feel like it belongs to you. You begin by sifting the ash. The texture matters. It should be soft as powdered snow, fine enough to pass through silk mesh without clumping. Any remaining charcoal bits, those rude little black specks, must be removed. They make the perfume gritty and leave smudges on the wearer's robes. And trust me, no one wants to be spotted at temple with streaks like they fell into a fireplace. While you work, the herbalist grinds dried peels in a mortar, releasing an aroma both citrusy and dark like fruit past its ripeness, holding on to the ghost of sweetness. Then come a few dried pine needles crumbled by hand, a thread of oil from the sesame jar, and finally the bamboo ash folded in gently like flour into dough. Here's a mainstream historical nugget: oil-based perfumes were quite common in ancient East Asia, unlike the alcohol-based types that would dominate later European styles. The oil helped carry the scent longer and could be massaged into skin or hair. But they weren't just for smelling good, they were also part of spiritual practice. Scent was purification preparation. You didn't just wear it, you stepped into it like a ritual. Now comes the quirky bit. As you mix, the herbalist adds a single folded leaf of sangwa, a traditional Korean tonic herb said to strengthen the spirit and refresh the breath. The scent is barely there, almost medicinal. Good for stubborn ghosts, she mutters. You're not sure if she's joking. Historians still argue whether these household perfumes were standardized recipes passed down through families or more like jazz improvised depending on available ingredients. Some recovered court texts hint at rigid formulas, but most village practices likely lean toward whatever you have, as long as it doesn't smell like goat. Once your blend is smooth and uniform, you roll a little of it between your palms. The texture is earthy, soft, and slightly oily. You dab a bit behind your ears, more out of curiosity than vanity. The smell is subtle. Nothing like the intense floral blasts you imagine modern perfume counters would offer. This is quieter. Whispers of burnt bamboo with a trail of dry fruit and something sharp hiding behind it. You smell like firewood that once dreamed of being fruit. Not bad, says the herbalist, sniffing the air. It won't scare the chickens. You beam with pride. The rest of the afternoon is quiet. You press small dabs of the perfume into parchment, fold them into sachets, and tuck them into linen drawers and winter clothing chests. In this time, long before closets and cedarwood hangers, perfume did double duty as insect repellent and linen refresher. Nobody wants moths in their underrobes. As you work, a knock at the door interrupts the rhythm. It's a traveler from the next village over a man wrapped in multiple layers of rough hemp, clearly worn from the road. He carries with him a pouch of rare dried petals and an awkward smile. Something for my wedding night, he mutters. Ah, the universal language of nervous grooms. The herbalist raises an eyebrow and tells him to return tomorrow. Then she turns to you and says, "You'll handle that one." Your eyes widen. You a whole custom blend, but she's already busying herself with a pot of boiling roots and a scroll of tax records. Clearly this one's yours. You glance at the groom's offering, fragrant petals, probably osmanthus, or maybe some imported variant. Rare, expensive, and terribly easy to mess up. You'll need to decide: go bold and pair it with a sharper resin, or play it safe with more bamboo ash and sesame. The groom doesn't strike you as bold, but hey, love does strange things to a person. As twilight settles outside, you begin tinkering. The workshop grows quiet, lit only by a small oil lamp flickering like it's trying to fall asleep. You sniff, mix, pause, adjust. Eventually, you land on something soft and steady, a blend of ash blossom and a pinch of dried rice husk for texture. You test it on a cloth square, fold it gently, and set it beside the other sachets. Tomorrow you'll present it. Maybe the groom will smile. Maybe his bride will wrinkle her nose. Maybe no one will notice it at all, but you will know. And in this small way, with ash and memory and a little elbow grease, you are shaping how someone's night will smell forever. You wake up to a curious sound, something like rhythmic knocking, mixed with the high-pitched squeal of a stubborn hinge. It takes you a few bleary moments to realize what it is, the village smith working at dawn again. Not on swords or plows today, but on incense burners. Yes, even in your bamboo ash perfume world, metallurgy has a role. That's your errand this morning, off to the smith's shop to pick up a new hyangno, a lidded incense bowl used for gently warming and releasing perfumes. Not the kind that smolders. This one cradles the ash on a thin, heated plate, allowing the scent to lift slowly without burning it outright. As you make your way through the misty paths still damp from a night of drizzle, you pass a few early risers. A young woman balances a jar of soy mash on her head. An older man feeds dried kelp into a clay stove. Everyone's wrapped in quiet, just like the air around them. You pause at the footbridge that crosses the creek, watching the water move like sleepy silk, and breathe in deep. Already the scent of someone's breakfast, roasted barley and scallion, mingles with the distant perfume of pine. The smith's workshop isn't much to look at, just a clay-walled building with a wide chimney and a roof, so bowed it looks like it's perpetually sighing. Inside, the air is thick with metal and heat in smoke, not exactly the most perfume-friendly environment. But the moment he sees you, the smith grins, revealing the single tooth he's managed to hang on to for 60 years. "Your pot's done," he says, holding up a bronze vessel, polished to a dull sheen. It's beautiful in a practical kind of way. Latticed lid, shallow bowl, and 3 stubby legs. The base has been etched with a tiny symbol, a blooming flower surrounded by flame. Not flashy, but it makes you smile. "Won't tip even if you sneeze on it," the smith adds, which is a fair point. Some of the older burners have all the balance of a drunken goat. You test it on a stone table outside. Pour a little bamboo ash in. Place a warm coal in the base, separated by a layer of baked clay. You watch as the scent unfurls, first the heat, then the memory, then the softness of the blend you crafted yesterday. A puff of it drifts upward like a ghost with good manners. Historians still argue over the exact role of these incense burners in everyday homes. Some say they were purely ceremonial, used only during spiritual rites or ancestor offerings. Others believe they were more practical, heating homes with scent and masking the less than romantic odors of a world without plumbing. The truth, likely somewhere in between. But there's something undeniably intimate about a scent that fills a room without demanding attention. As you cradle the burner in your arms for the trip home, the smith mentions an odd bit of local legend. They say bamboo ash perfumes confuse fox spirits, he mutters. Mask your scent. Keeps you from getting lured into their illusions. You blink. This again. This fox spirit lore has been following you for weeks. Every village has a version, trickster creatures who smell your desires, then use them against you. Perfume, they say, is both disguise and invitation. Wear it wrong and you might end up dancing barefoot under a blood moon with no memory of how you got there. Or worse, married to a very charming, very furry stranger. You chuckle politely, but deep down you can't help wondering. After all, scent is a kind of magic. Back home, the herbalist tests the burner with her own blend, a sharp menthol-tinged mixture she claims helps with migraines. The scent fills the room like a polite fog, and you both sit in silence, letting it wrap around you. A cat sniffs the air, sneezes, and leaves in disgust. Later that afternoon, a nobleman's steward arrives with a new order, a travel-ready perfume set for a scholar heading south. The man wants something dignified, subtle, intellectual, but also fragrant enough to cover the musty stench of old scrolls and 8-day journeys in a closed palanquin. A delicate challenge. You begin by testing the heat thresholds of various ash blends, and this is trickier than you'd think. Too much pine bark and the scent becomes aggressive. Too much oil and it clings to the burner in a way that's, well, sticky. Eventually you land on something that lifts cleanly with heat bamboo ash, laced with dried lotus seed powder, and a rare trace of sandalwood scrap salvaged from a temple renovation, no less. Fun tidbit: certain traveling monks in the Goryeo era were rumored to wear sachets of perfumed ash under their sleeves to distract bandits or at least make death smell like lilies. You wonder how many of those monks were just deeply stylish introverts looking for their signature scent. That evening, as the village prepares for a lantern festival, you light your new burner for the first time in your own room. No ceremony, no clients, just you. You sit by the hearth letting the perfume drift upward in lazy spirals. The scent is familiar now, but never dull. Like an old friend who always brings something new to say. You lean back, close your eyes, and imagine what the scholar's journey will smell like. You imagine the fox spirit circling in confusion. You imagine that somewhere centuries from now, someone else might light this same blend and feel oddly at home. There's a certain rhythm to your days now. Bamboo ash in the morning herb, sorting by noon, and by late afternoon, you're usually ankle deep in petals or peering into a pot of boiling something. But today breaks the pattern. You're headed uphill toward the home of an elder known only as Grandmother Rio. She lives just beyond the upper rice paddies where the mist gathers like it's attending a quiet seminar on mountain gossip. Grandmother Rio is said to be the oldest living scent blender in the region, though no one knows her exact age. She's outlived 3 husbands, 2 feudal tax codes, and 1 very persistent woodpecker. You're here on an errand from your teacher, but secretly, you're hoping to learn something no book or workshop could ever teach. As you climb the trail, the air sharpens more pine, less village. There's a whetstone scent clinging to everything, the kind that makes your lungs feel freshly scrubbed. When you reach the little hut, you notice the smoke first, thin, blue, and sweet smelling. Not firewood, not food, perfume. She's already working. She doesn't greet you immediately, just nods and gestures toward a bench. You sit and watch. Her movements are slow but deliberate. She's folding something into a cloth sachet of fine gray powder mixed with what looks like ground amber and possibly crushed plum kernel. She catches your stare and says, "Don't ask what's in it. Just ask how it behaves." And here comes a historical gem for the day. Many traditional Korean perfumers didn't actually write down their formulas. Recipes were learned through repetition and memory, often adjusted by season, mood, or even the temperament of the household. Written scrolls existed, sure, but were often vague, a pinch of summer wind or 2 parts evening rain. Not very helpful if you're trying to mass-produce anything. Grandmother Rio asks you to hand her a small jar. It's marked with a faded ideograph on the character for lotus. She opens it, inhales deeply, and grimaces. Too green. Needs something dead. You're not sure how to respond to that. Dead. Like what? Like memory, she replies, which isn't helpful either. Then she laughs, a wheezy chuckle that turns into a cough. Try dried persimmon crushed with bamboo ash. Gives it weight. So you try. She lets you mix your own variation, guiding with occasional snorts and well-timed sighs. Every now and then, she mutters something that might be wisdom or might be a shopping list for the afterlife. Don't trust any scent that arrives too early, she says at one point. It leaves early, too. As the blend warms on a nearby incense plate, you realize she's right. The scent evolves slowly, like a long conversation. At first, it's light and polite, fruit forward, with a touch of grassy ash. But wait 10 minutes and something deeper crawls out. A little sure, a little smoky. Maybe even sad. It reminds you of steamed bamboo after rain, the kind of scent that lingers in empty rooms. Now for your quirky tidbit, Grandmother Rio insists that all good perfume should contain something mildly unpleasant. If it's too pretty, the nose gets lazy, she says. So she adds a single flake of dried fish scale to the mix. You try not to react, but she notices. It sharpens the sweetness, like salt in tea. Historians still debate whether scent additives like these fish, ash, even shell powder were intentional, or the result of environmental contamination. Some argue they were part of a broader belief system where the perfume mirrored life, sweet, yes, but never without complexity. Others claim it's just what happens when you live near the sea and store your perfume next to dinner. Before you leave, Grandmother Rio hands you a packet of her winter mix bamboo, ash, wild ginger root crushed pine cone, and yes, more dried persimmon. She tells you to warm it only when it snows. Otherwise, it's wasted, she mutters, already turning back to her sachets. You descend the hill as the sun begins to dip. The sky turns apricot, then rose, then a deep plum, and all the while you're thinking about how that perfume made you feel. Not happy exactly, not relaxed, but present. Like your senses had been called to attention without ever being yelled at. That night, as the village bustles with dinner prep and hushed gossip, you test the winter mix in your room, just a pinch on the burner. It doesn't smell like a season. It smells like waiting for one. It smells like the breath before snow. And you realize not for the first time that perfume isn't just something people wear. It's something they carry inside. It's memory, weather, longing, even fish scales if they must. You wake the next morning with the faint scent of ginger and pine still curling at the edges of your dreams. It's early, the kind of early where the air tastes like cold rice, and the chickens haven't even decided if they're awake yet. You shuffle to your workspace half asleep and light a burner without thinking. The winter mix. Again. It feels different this morning. Cooler, wiser maybe, or perhaps your nose is finally learning the language. Today's challenge comes from an unusual source. A merchant's daughter with a nose for mischief and a pouch full of silver. She wants a custom scent. Not for seduction, not for ceremony, but for her dog. Yes, a small, round, extremely spoiled dog with an underbite and a waddle. He hates the smell of other dogs, she explains dead serious. But he adores roasted chestnuts. You resist the urge to ask if the dog also appreciates poetry. Instead, you agree because silver is silver and crafting a perfume for a dog might just be your most peaceful commission yet. This isn't as absurd as it sounds. Believe it or not, scent rituals in historical Korea often extended beyond humans. Pets of the elite, especially small lapdogs and decorative birds, were sometimes brushed with aromatic powders or housed near scent burners. Not because they were expected to appreciate the nuance of lotus versus orchid, but because the humans did. It was a projection of harmony and wealth, like having matching dinnerware or a household lute player who didn't make mistakes. You begin with roasted barley ash, since it carries that comforting nutty smell the dog might actually recognize. Then you mix in a tiny amount of bamboo ash to extend the warmth. Chestnut shell powder is surprisingly difficult to make. It burns. Too fast, smells like charred regret, and takes ages to sift, but you manage. The result, a perfume that doesn't bark for attention. It just wags. You try a bit on your wrist. It's surprisingly cozy, like wearing a blanket baked in late autumn sun. Now for your fringe fact of the day, one noblewoman of the late Joseon dynasty reportedly kept a fragrance log not for herself, but for her parrot. She swore the bird performed better when its perch was dusted with ground violet and a touch of bamboo ash. Historians roll their eyes, but secretly many wish the log still existed. Imagine the research possibilities. As you finish the blend, the merchant's daughter returns dog in tow. The creature sniffs the perfume, sneezes once, then rolls over dramatically, as if you've just presented him with an opera. The girl is thrilled. He loves it, she announces. He only flops over for things he respects. You package the scent in a gourd-shaped vial, seal it with beeswax, and tuck in a slip of parchment. Best used during nap time or after small victories. She gives you 2 extra coins. For charm, she says, and skips off. Later that afternoon, you're visited by someone far more serious. A monk robed in undyed hemp and smelling faintly of wet gravel. He's preparing for a silent retreat, 10 days of meditation rice gruel, and as few thoughts as possible. He wants a scent that won't distract him, but will ground him. Something to burn only once a day at dusk, to remind him that time is passing gently. This is the opposite of the dog perfume. No personality, no sparkle, just presence, a scent that hums rather than sings. You start with bamboo ash naturally. Add powdered magnolia bark, very subtle, almost ghostly in scent. A dash of dried fern for earthiness, and for something a little strange, a scrap of rain-warped mulberry bark from a scroll box that had been buried for a season, the smell like forgotten ink and quiet paper. Historians still argue whether monks truly used perfume this way, or if it was an invention of later storytellers romanticizing solitude. Some temple records mention evening ash rituals, but whether those were perfumed or purely symbolic remains unclear. You think it doesn't really matter. If scent helps someone sit longer with their breath, it's doing its job. You test the blend yourself before passing it on. The scent is nearly nothing, just a whisper of wood and rain and patience. But when the last curl of smoke fades, you feel steadier, like someone put a hand on your shoulder, then walked away without saying a word. As evening slips in, you decide to take a rare walk. No clients, no commissions, just you and the low chirp of frogs beginning their nightly chorus. The village smells different at this hour. Cooked millet, soot, something pickled. You wonder what future historians will think if they ever try to reconstruct the smell of a village like this. Will they get it wrong Or will they capture the burnt edges, the soft middles, the perfume that clings to hair and hearth and conversation? You return home to find a small clay jar on your doorstep. No note, just a thumbprint in the lid. Inside is a sample of perfume you didn't make bamboo ash, but with something else. You can't place it. Something wet and electric and slightly fermented, like riverbank moss after thunder. You sit with it curious. Whoever left it didn't want recognition. They just wanted you to smell something new. You don't sleep much that night. Not because you're uncomfortable, your bedding is soft, the air cool, and you even remembered to put the mosquito screen up this time. But your mind keeps returning to that little jar. The mystery scent, the ghost note in the bamboo ash. You try sniffing it again before dawn. Still the same earthy and wild, like someone tried to bottle a thunderstorm in late spring. You dab a little on your wrist. Nothing dangerous happens, your hand doesn't fall off, and the moon doesn't crack in half, so that's a good start. By mid-morning, you're deep in conversation with your teacher about it. He gives it a long, thoughtful inhale and then wrinkles his brow. Could be fermented mushroom, he mutters, or soaked mulberry pulp. Hard to say. There's a sharpness to it, like it wants to argue with the air. You mention the thunder, the riverbank scent. Ah, he says. Then maybe lightning-struck pine root. Rare. Charred underground pulled up in spring. You don't find that often, not unless you know a woodcutter with secrets. And just like that, your day changes direction. Now you're headed toward the forest edges, those dark fringes where villagers gather firewood and gossip, but few go deeper. You've heard stories, hidden springs that heal birds, that mimic footsteps, trees that fall in love with each other and refuse to bloom if separated. Probably nonsense, but today it all feels slightly more possible. You follow the river first, hoping the scent will guide you. It doesn't. Rivers smell like life and loss and fish mostly. Still, it's nice to walk. The mud sucks at your sandals like a clingy toddler, and dragonflies zip by in pairs, buzzing just a little too loudly like gossiping ants. And then you see it, a tree twisted and split at the base, blackened in streaks. Not burnt exactly, more like bruised by weather. Lightning could be. There's a small hole near the roots and nestled inside a few shards of what looks like resin-soaked bark. You pocket some nose twitching with anticipation. Yep, that's the scent. Thunder in a bottle. Back in the workshop, you grind it gently and blend it with bamboo ash. The result is rich and strange smoke with a memory. You test a bit on a strip of cloth and hang it by the window. Within minutes, your small room smells like a forest that just exhaled. And here's your historical fact for the day. Ancient Koreans, especially in shamanic traditions, believed lightning-struck wood carried spiritual significance. It was sometimes used in ritual fires to ward off disease or ground into powder and added to amulets. Some even believed it could attract good dreams or keep bad ones from settling in. Perfume made with such wood would not just smell good, it would do something. For your quirky tidbit, one 17th century perfumer supposedly built a scent entirely around different weather elements, rain-steeped moss, sun-dried bark, even dew collected on specific lunar days. He claimed his weather perfume changed depending on the user's mood or intentions. Scholars have dismissed it as pseudoscience, but then again, your thunder perfume does seem to shift slightly depending on where you put it. Historians still argue whether natural events like lightning or eclipse truly affected perfumery, or whether these were simply layered metaphors. Was scent used to mirror nature or to manipulate it? You return to your notebook sketching a new idea. A line of perfumes named after weather events, spring fog, mountain hail, first snow, last thunder. Bamboo ash would be the common thread, of course, always grounding, always steady. You think back to Grandmother Ryo's comment, "Don't trust any scent that arrives too early." This one doesn't. It unfolds slowly like a polite guest, a little hesitant, a little shy, but then it lingers and suddenly the room feels expectant. That evening you host a small scent trial. 3 clients, 1 burner, no explanations. You offer them 3 ash-based blends, floral, herbal, and your new stormwood. Each chooses differently. One says the floral smells like their grandmother's sleeves. Another calls the herbal like drinking tea without swallowing. The third sniffs the stormwood, pauses, then says, "It smells like a memory I forgot I had." You don't tell them what's in it. You just smile. Later, as you clean up, you think about how perfume connects people not through logic but sensation, through something ancient and animal in the brain. A flash of a hallway, a warm hand, A rainy afternoon you thought was gone forever. You press the last of the stormwood into a sachet and place it in your pillowcase. Not to sleep better, just to dream weirder. You wake up feeling like you've slept in a cave, warmed by incense and distant thunder. Your pillow smells faintly of the stormwood sachet, less sharp now, softer, like the scent had a dream of its own and decided to stay behind. This morning your first client is a palace official. Mid-level, puffed up clearly, someone who enjoys the smell of his own robes. He arrives with a silk kerchief and a slightly panicked look in his eyes. He leans in conspiratorially and whispers, "I've been assigned to greet the Chinese delegation next week, and my usual scent is too local." Too local, you raise an eyebrow. He elaborates, "It smells like dried squid and family expectations. I need something diplomatic, something neutral but expensive." The international nose dilemma. Historically, this request is fascinating. During the Joseon dynasty, Korea was nestled in a delicate position between its powerful neighbors, China to the west, Japan to the east. Diplomacy wasn't just about fancy titles or bows. It extended to clothing language, and yes, even scent. Too strong, and you were seen as vulgar. Too plain, and you risked appearing unimpressive. So you take the challenge seriously. You begin with your trusty base bamboo ash. It's understated, familiar, and incredibly adaptable. From there, you add a rare touch powdered osmanthus petals, dried and aged in oil, sweet but not cloying. A hint of dried plum blossom, often associated with resilience and scholarship. You even consider slipping in a note of ginseng root, not for its scent, but for the prestige it carries. A status note, if you will. And for the final touch, a whisper of sea kelp ash. Not enough to register as ocean, but enough to add a mineral briny smoothness, something grounding and just a bit mysterious. Here's your mainstream historical tidbit. When Korean envoys traveled to Ming or Qing courts, they were often gifted with perfumes and incenses. Some reports even mention scent being used to identify rank. Certain court officials were only allowed specific blends. While Korea maintained a distinct cultural identity, there was always a level of olfactory code switching during diplomatic exchanges. And your quirky addition, one Korean official once reportedly tried to impress a Chinese counterpart by mimicking the smell of a southern Chinese orchard using fermented peach pits and sandalwood. Unfortunately, the result was closer to pickled carp than poetic mist, and the official was quietly reassigned to grain storage duties. Historians still argue whether these diplomatic scent gestures were truly effective, or if they were simply symbolic fluff layered onto already rigid hierarchies. Some even believe scent-based diplomacy was more for internal consumption, proof to your own court that you'd gone above and beyond nose first. You hand your blend to the official in a tiny rosewood box tied with blue silk. He lifts the lid, sniffs once, and exhales like he's just unburdened generations of awkward family reunions. "This," he says, "smells like I have read all the proper books." That afternoon, you head to the market not for supplies, but for inspiration. Markets are the unfiltered breath of any town. You take a slow lap through the food stalls, inhaling the perfume of daily life: fish brine, hot broth, fermented soybean paste, fried dough. It's a strange kind of poetry. You pause at one stall selling herbal wines and hear two elderly women debating loudly about the best way to scent undergarments. Mugwort, insists one, wards off bad spirits and bad men. The other shakes her head, dried pear skin, smells like modesty. You take mental notes. These are the true perfumers, people making decisions with their instincts, their laundry, and a bit of gossip. On the way home, you pass a boy rubbing wild mint leaves behind his ears. When he sees you watching, he grins and says, "The girls say it makes me run faster." Does it? You hope it does. Back in the workshop, you experiment with layering. You try the osmanthus ginseng blend again, but now over a base of charcoal-filtered ash cleaner crisper. You test it beside stormwood, comparing how each scent unfolds. One is formal, polished. The other is wild and honest. You label them both quietly, silk speech, and after the storm. The contrast strikes you, one scent for navigating diplomacy, one for surviving it. You close your notebooks for the evening and light a simple blend bamboo ash with a touch of chrysanthemum. A scent for resting, for letting the nose and the ego go quiet. The sun is low when you step outside again, and the world smells different, softened by fading light and the cool promise of evening. Your footsteps slow as you walk past rice paddies where farmers are winding down after a day of careful tending. The earthy smell of wet soil mingles with the faintest hint of jasmine from a nearby home wrapped in the comfort of lingering sunlight. You think back to your last experiments with scent, how bamboo ash held everything together like a quiet backbone. It makes sense, really. Ash is what remains after fire has done its work transform wood into something both fragile and enduring. Just like memory. You decide today to dive deeper into that idea perfume as memory. The Korean word for scent, hyang, also means fragrance aroma, and sometimes even spirit or essence. It's no accident that ancient Koreans linked the making of perfume to spiritual practice. Perfume wasn't just decoration, it was connection to ancestors, to nature, to the seasons passing quietly. You pull out an old text you found at the market last week, written in delicate calligraphy. It's a recipe book of sorts compiled by an anonymous court perfumer. The recipes are poetic, like little love letters to the natural world. One passage speaks of capturing the breath of autumn leaves before they fall. Another describes holding the morning mist in a jar so it can warm lonely hearts. You laugh softly. Easy to romanticize, but there's truth in it too. Here's your mainstream historical fact: Korean perfumers in the Joseon dynasty often used poetry and calligraphy alongside their craft. A perfume might be presented with a poem to evoke mood and memory, transforming a scent into a whole sensory experience. This blending of arts made each bottle something intimate and almost sacred. Your quirky tidbit: one perfumer reportedly tried to distill the scent of a famous poet's study, mixing aged paper ink and faded pine needles. The result was disappointing, described by one courtier as smelling like an unfinished essay. The poet himself was said to be amused. Historians still argue whether these literary perfumes were sincere attempts at sensory art or elaborate court theater. Were they created to evoke genuine memory or simply to impress the right people? As you prepare your workspace, you decide to try something new, blending the smell of aged paper with bamboo ash and a faint hint of crushed orchid petals. You crush the petals slowly between your fingers, releasing a delicate sweetness that balances the earthiness of the ash. The mixture is subtle and complex. It doesn't shout, it whispers. You dab a small amount on a silk strip and breathe it in deeply. The scent feels like a warm afternoon in a quiet study sun, filtering through lattice windows, a scholar lost in thought. You imagine this perfume worn during long writing sessions, a scent to inspire focus and calm. It would be the companion to calligraphy brushes and the soft rustling of pages. You test the scent on a few visitors, mostly young scholars. They nod approvingly, describing it as thoughtful and gentle. One even says it smells like a promise kept. Satisfied, you label the batch quiet study and tuck it away for safekeeping. As night falls, you light a small incense stick nearby. The faint smoke curls upward, mingling with your new creation. You sit back, letting the gentle scents wrap around you, and wonder what stories these perfumes will carry forward. Morning arrives with a slow, golden light spilling across the rooftops, soft and unhurried, like the scent you're about to create. Today, your focus shifts to everyday life, the perfumes worn not by kings or diplomats, but by the humble folk who live quietly among the hills and rice paddies. You imagine a young woman heading to the market, balancing baskets of vegetables and woven straw hats on her arms. What scent would she carry? Something simple, soothing, something to mask the earth and sweat without overpowering the chatter of vendors or the clatter of carts. Historically, the use of personal scent among commoners in ancient Korea was subtle and practical. Perfumes were often made from natural ingredients that were easily foraged, bamboo ash, of course, but also fragrant grasses, dried herbs, and sometimes flower petals pressed into cloth sachets. You recall a quirky fact: in some rural villages, women used mixtures of powdered rice and dried mugwort to freshen their hair and skin, believing the scent not only kept them clean, but also protected against insects and misfortune. Some even tucked tiny sachets of lavender-like wild herbs into their clothing for luck. You're inspired to create a blend that honors these traditions, earthy yet fresh, practical, yet a little bit magical. You gather bamboo ash, wild chrysanthemum petals, and a pinch of dried mint leaves, crushing and mixing them with care. The ash grounds the scent, the chrysanthemum adds a gentle floral note, and the mint brings a crisp brightness like a breath of morning air. Historians still argue whether such everyday perfumes were widespread or more limited to special occasions. Were these scents part of daily grooming rituals or saved for festivals and market days? The evidence is patchy, But the idea of scent as a small comfort in hard lives feels right. You test the blend on your wrist, inhaling the quiet complexity. It's not fancy, but it's honest, like the market itself. Later, you imagine this scent in a story, a young woman walking through the dusty paths, the air filled with calls of merchants and the scent of steamed rice. She stops to smile at a child chasing a chicken, her own scent mingling with the world around her, barefoot, grounded, and alive. You label this blend market day and set it aside with a smile. As twilight deepens, you light a tiny charcoal burner and add a pinch of your new mixture. The smoke drifts lazily, softening the edges of the day. You breathe it in, feeling the simple warmth of small moments wrapped in scent. The air is cooler when you return to your workshop, carrying the lingering smell of evening dew and dried mint from your last experiment. Tonight, you turn your attention to the rituals surrounding health and well-being, because scent in ancient Korea wasn't just about beauty or status, it was medicine. You remember reading that ancient Korean herbalists believed certain smells could ward off illness or soothe the mind. Bamboo ash, while mostly used for its scent, was also thought to have purifying properties. The fine powder was sometimes added to incense burned during cleansing rituals or mixed into ointments. You're tasked to create a perfume inspired by these medicinal traditions, something to calm the nerves and clear the head after a long day. You begin with bamboo ash again, the constant thread running through your work. To it, you add powdered angelica root, known for its calming scent and healing properties, and a hint of dried magnolia petals, prized for their soothing fragrance. Historians still argue whether these medicinal scents had actual health benefits or whether their effects were mostly psychological, tied to ritual and belief. But you sense that even if the science is uncertain, the act of caring for oneself with scent had undeniable comfort. As you mix, you think about the busy streets of Hanyang modern Seoul centuries ago, where perfumed incense smoke curled from herbal shops and apothecaries. The smell of healing herbs mingled with the chatter of vendors and footsteps on stone. You test your blend on a small piece of silk, holding it close to your nose. It's gentle and calming, like a whispered promise of rest. A quirky fact comes to mind. One royal physician reportedly recommended burning a blend of bamboo ash and sandalwood to ease insomnia. The combination was said to lull restless sleepers to peaceful dreams, though some courtiers swore it smelled more like a wet dog and weren't so sure. You laugh quietly to yourself and name this blend Evening Remedy. You imagine a weary scholar returning from the courts and offices, lighting this incense to unwind. The scent fills the room like a soft blanket, blurring the lines between wakefulness and sleep. You carefully store your creation, ready for the next day's experiments. For now, you sit back and inhale the comforting aroma, feeling the ancient rhythm of health and scent pulse softly through time. The morning light filters through the paper windows, casting delicate patterns on your workbench, scattered with bamboo ash, crushed petals, and tiny jars. Today's focus is on scent as a marker of gender and social identity, a delicate, fragrant dance that defines who you are and how the world sees you. You picture the elaborate hairstyles and layered handbox of Joseon era, women their powdered faces framed by subtle wafts of perfume. Men, too, had their olfactory signatures, often more restrained, but no less meaningful. Perfume was a language, a silent conversation layered beneath words and gestures. Historically, women's perfumes leaned toward floral and sweet notes, osmanthus, plum blossom, sometimes chrysanthemum, while men's scents were often woodier, earthier, with hints of bamboo ash and pine. These choices reflected not only personal preference, but cultural ideals of femininity and masculinity. You recall a quirky tidbit from a scroll. A noblewoman once commissioned a perfume infused with crushed silk moth cocoons, believing the scent would enhance her allure and bring her good fortune. The mixture was so unusual that her ladies-in-waiting quietly swapped it out for something less pungent. Historians still argue how rigid these scent codes really were. Did everyone follow the expected patterns, or were there bold exceptions who defied norms with unexpected fragrances? The evidence is tantalizingly sparse. You decide to craft two complementary scents tonight, one floral, one woody, both anchored by bamboo ash. For the floral blend, you combine powdered plum blossom, a touch of jasmine, and bamboo ash, producing a soft, inviting scent. For the woody blend, you mix pine resin, bamboo ash, and a hint of dried cedar needles, creating something quietly strong and grounding. You imagine these perfumes worn in a garden during a moonlit gathering, soft laughter, delicate silk brushing against stone. the mingling of scents like whispered secrets. You label the floral blend Moonlit Blossom and the woody blend Quiet Grove. As you seal the jars, you think about how scent shapes identity even now, though we might not always notice it. Perfume is a bridge between inner self and outer world, a silent signature. You breathe in the woody scent deeply, feeling the calm strength it offers, then switch to the floral and smile at its gentle sweetness. The sun dips lower outside, shadows growing long. You place your creations carefully on the shelf, ready to share the subtle stories they carry. Evening settles softly outside your window, the quiet hum of distant cicadas blending with the faint crackle of a low fire. Tonight your curiosity drifts toward the sense of celebration, how ancient Koreans used perfume during festivals and communal gatherings to mark joy and ritual. You envision lantern-lit nights where families and neighbors gather beneath paper canopies sharing stories and laughter. The air is thick with the smell of incense, grilled rice cakes, and something else, a special perfume worn to lift spirits and invite good fortune. Historically, festivals like Chuseok, the Korean harvest celebration, involved the use of fragrant oils and powders made from seasonal flowers and herbs. Bamboo ash was often part of these blends, providing a grounding earthiness to balance the bright floral notes. A quirky detail emerges from your notes during one autumn festival. A group of children reportedly carried small sachets filled with crushed pine needles and bamboo ash, believing the scent would protect them from bad dreams. Adults humored them, but some swore the practice really worked. Historians still argue about how widespread these scented traditions were. Were they mainly urban practices among the elite or common across villages and provinces? The scents themselves seem to carry a hint of mystery. You gather ingredients: bamboo ash, dried chrysanthemum pine needles, and a touch of sweet persimmon skin powder. The mix is earthy yet bright with subtle warmth. You crush and blend the powders slowly, imagining the rhythmic dances and soft songs filling the air as you work. The scent reminds you of deep woods touched by the sun and the festive glow of lanterns swaying in the breeze. You test the perfume on a strip of hanji paper, the smell unfolding gently like a story told in whispers. You name this blend Harvest Lantern, picturing it tucked into pockets or tied to garments, a small talisman of joy and protection. As night deepens, you light a candle and set your new scent beside it. The flickering flame and gentle aroma weave together, coaxing a smile from you. You breathe in the blend one last time, feeling a connection to countless celebrations, past simple moments of togetherness, marked by the quiet power of scent. The morning dawns quietly, a gentle breeze stirring the bamboo groves just outside your window. Your thoughts drift to the role of scent in spiritual practice and meditation, the silent rituals where perfume was more than fragrance. It was a pathway to calm focus and transcendence. You picture monks seated cross-legged in temple courtyards, incense smoke curling lazily around weathered statues and wooden beams. Bamboo ash, with its pure, subtle aroma, was often part of the incense blends, burned during these contemplative moments, believed to clear the mind and open the heart. Historically, many Korean Buddhist temples crafted their own incense recipes, mixing bamboo ash with sandalwood, camphor, and other sacred ingredients. The scent was an aid for meditation, intended to help monks reach deeper states of awareness. A quirky story comes to mind. A certain monk was said to have experimented with adding crushed lotus petals to his incense, hoping to capture enlightenment in a bottle. While the scent was described as heavenly, some monks joked it smelled more like a damp pond after rain. Historians still debate how much these scented rituals influenced wider Korean society or remained confined to temple walls. The spiritual power of scent, though, seems undeniable. You decide to create a perfume inspired by these meditative blends, something light, ethereal, and peaceful. You mix bamboo ash, sandalwood powder, and a tiny amount of crushed lotus petals, blending carefully. The resulting scent is soft and calming, like a morning mist over a still lake. You imagine this perfume worn by a monk walking slowly through a temple garden, each breath deep and steady, the scent grounding the present moment. You label this blend Silent Grove and set it aside with reverence. As the day moves on, you pause often to inhale the scent, letting its gentle calm wash over you. It feels like a quiet invitation to slow down, to listen to the breath, to rest. Tonight, as you prepare to sleep, you hope the subtle fragrance will follow you into dreams, guiding you to a place of peace. The soft hum of evening wraps around you like a well-worn blanket, carrying the faint scent of bamboo ash lingering from your previous experiments. Now you turn inward to the intimate role of perfume, In private moments, the quiet ways scent was woven into daily rituals of comfort and care. Imagine the gentle brushing of silk robes, the muted footsteps across wooden floors. Ancient Koreans believed scent had the power not only to please, but to soothe the soul and deepen bonds. Perfume bottles, often small and delicate, were treasured possessions passed from mother to daughter or gifted between lovers. Historically, bamboo ash served as a base for many intimate fragrances, combined with sweet osmanthus or the tender aroma of plum blossoms. These blends were worn close to the skin, comforting and subtle like a whispered secret shared in the calm of evening. A quirky tidbit floats to your mind. Some families kept tiny jars of perfume hidden beneath floorboards, believing the scent would protect their home from wandering spirits and bring peaceful sleep. Whether true or superstition, the practice speaks to the gentle reverence held for scent's quiet power. Historians still argue about how personal these fragrances were. Were they everyday essentials or reserved for special moments? The softness of the scent suggests the former, an everyday luxury in small doses. You blend bamboo ash with dried osmanthus petals and a hint of plum blossom powder, crafting a scent both tender and warm. The fragrance settles like a lullaby on your skin. You imagine a quiet evening ritual, the slow, mindful application of perfume, the comforting aroma filling a softly lit room. The scent wraps you in calm, a gentle reminder of presence and care. You label this final creation whispered grace. As night deepens, you breathe in the fragrance one last time, feeling the delicate thread of history woven through your senses. The soft scent fades into the quiet, carrying you toward restful dreams and peaceful sleep. The fading light dims slowly now, and your breath grows soft and steady. Imagine the bamboo groves outside your window, whispering secrets carried on the breeze. The gentle rustling leaves a lullaby to soothe your mind. The scent of bamboo ash, delicate petals, and warm earth lingers softly, inviting rest. You've walked through ancient Korea's fragrant history, from bustling markets to silent temples, from joyous festivals to private moments steeped in gentle care. Let these scents fold around you, a quiet comfort drifting in the night. There is no rush here, only calm, a slow unfolding of time and memory, a peaceful closing of eyes. So relax your body, soften your thoughts, and drift with the scent of centuries past carrying you softly into sleep.